So that was 2009, in 2010 when they really got ahead. And what ended up happening was, first of all, social gaming wasn't really...
It was just the beginning.
It was just the very start, right? So we were dominating the market. We were the Zynga, of 2009. And what ended up happening was we were doing smaller games, right? We were doing things that were much more viral, that were much smaller, and doing just really quality games and all that sort of stuff, but very small. So I don't know if you remember like Super Poke or Fun Wall or any of those. Those were all slide games. And then you had Rock You, which was another competitor to us, but we were still kind of beating them. Now Zynga came out with this whole entirely different strategy, which was create really robust games and make those viral on social platforms. And no one thought they would really, no one really knew if that was going to work or not, right? And they had a little bit of success, but they actually had some trouble with it. But when Dope Wars came out, which ended up becoming Mafia Wars, that was, I believe, the first real hit that they had. And that was more like a real game, much more of a real game than anything that we had at Slide at the time. And then they had Farmville, and then it just sort of exploded from there. But what they did, which was really smart, was they figured out, as did we, really clever viral channels that they could exploit very quickly and just like grow massively very fast. Now, there is a sort of overarching, I guess you could say, principle here of how to acquire users for any social game. Thing is, it's a little tricky. So what we did at Slide was we would just figure out what viral channels no one has leveraged, or figure out like how did Facebook screw up so that we could spam everyone, right? And we'd be like, oh, okay, they did this, and it's not in their terms of services. Well, we'll just spam like 10 million people, or like 20 or 30 million people with this thing, right? And we'd get their friends to do it for them. And so we would do that, and then it would work extremely well. And then they'd instantly close that channel off, right? So we'd literally gain millions of users. And then what would end up happening is, we'd see or understand a competitor, what they were doing, and say, oh crap, we got to do that right now because they're going to shut that off. And so we change our strategy, grow it right there, and then they, a week or two later, they'd shut that off. And so, when it was Zynga and Slide, this is how this was all working. They literally just destroyed us when it came to that because they focused so much more on that, and they had they ended up getting better analytics and just focusing. They were just much more aggressive than we were, and they just won. And they really won at social gaming, which is really what had this viral component to it. So the overarching theme is really to look at viral channels that haven't been exploited on whatever platform you're on, and exploit those channels as fast as possible, as powerfully as possible. So I would take that away from this conversation if you can, because it's super important, and that's why it's so difficult to win on Facebook now, because it's mature. Right? What's ended up happening was in the beginning it was just chaos, right? Like the first game was called like throw poop at my face or something like that, right? And it got like 1 million users because like they just put it out there, and then like it just went viral like crazy because Facebook didn't even realize all these sort of loopholes. And so at first it was like total chaos where like anyone could create like the dumbest game possible and it would just explode. And slowly but surely, it got much more difficult to do that because they got smarter and smarter and smarter, and the users ended up hating it. So, like, Facebook hated Slide. They had specific rules against just Slide. It literally, in their terms of services at one point, it said, oh yes, all users, unless you are part of Slide. Unless you're associated or something in Slide. Like, when you go to click the terms of services. So they just said, you know what, like, we can't even catch up to these guys because these guys are figuring this shit out so fast. So we'll just put it in our terms of services. And they actually blocked us at one point. So we had this, you know, $500 million company that it was you know, valued at $500 million at the time, where they just stopped everything that we were doing. They're like, all right, you just got to stop this. And so there was actually 2 days of slide where we didn't really operate, right? Because they just, you know, they shut us down essentially, right? Because our whole business was based off of Facebook. But again, as those viral channels started solidifying and as they made lots of reforms, lots of changes on Facebook, it became significantly harder. And now Zynga has all these partnerships with them. It's almost like, you know, I think, what is it? It's 12% or something of that of Facebook's revenue is from Zynga or something like this. And so it's very, very difficult to compete on the Facebook platform. But if you are going to compete on the Facebook platform, the only way to win is by actually looking at all the strategies that haven't been exploited and leveraging those. Or even making partnerships with people who already have applications. So at Slide, what we would do is, and we sort of have the luxury of doing this, but you know, I don't know what the Russian market looks like or anything, but we would acquire companies, right, or partner with companies. More so acquire, but we had a lot of money. We had, you know, an insane amount of money. So we would just say, okay, well, you have, this is growing, we'll just acquire you. Like, here's 500K, join our company. And we just do that left and right. I mean, we acquired, you know, 3/4 of the applications that we actually ended up becoming big. As did Zynga, right? Zynga acquired Farmville, Zynga acquired Mafia Wars, Zynga acquired everything that they had that was really big. So if you know you really want to win, you'll have to figure out a way to exploit those viral channels, either by figuring out what hasn't been used, or by partnering with somebody who's already a market leader, or is becoming a market leader, who has clear growth, and you can add value to their company by providing, you know, the resources and sort of ethos that your company has, all that sort of stuff.